Hi, and welcome to this 4NAV coffee break. My name is René Brummel. I'm a product specialist at 4NAV, and I will be your presenter today. As this coffee break is live, you can ask your questions via the GoToWebinar question window. We will answer them at the end of the coffee break. Today, we are going to use record values in footers of our Business Central reports. To demonstrate how to use record values in footers of Business Central reports, we will use the reports from the 4NAV customizable report pack. However, you can use record values in footers for any 4NAV report in any extension using the instructions from this coffee break. To demonstrate using record values in footers, I'm going to use these steps. Prerequisites, what do I need to get going? In step 2, I will add record values to a footer. In step 3, I will create variables for these values. In step 4, I will use the JavaScript objects for my values. Let's start with the first step. Today, I will be working in the Business Central on-premise Docker installation with the Business Central 2020 Wave 2 release. I have installed the 4NAV customizable report pack and I have executed a step-by-step wizard from the assisted setup to get started. Of course, everything I do today is also available on the Business Central cloud environment. I also have the 4NAV Designer installed on my PC. The 4NAV Designer can be downloaded from the 4NAV website. Usually, we will use data item values on either a header or a body section. That makes sense, that's what they're for. However, sometimes a client will want data item values on a footer. This is where we may run into trouble. 4NAV can only use the values from the data item that was read last. So let's go and have a look. Let's have a look, for instance, at our sales template and see what happens if we add stuff to the footer. Now let's delete the standard footer we have and just use the build to name. Drag that in and let's make it yellow so it stands out a little bit. If I preview this, you will notice my footer displays the Canon Group PLC, which is the same value as my header. And that's possible because if we look at this report in the 4NAV Designer, the footer is displayed whilst the header is still, the header data item is still in memory. So we can use data items from the header on the footer. It starts to get slightly more complicated though when we start working with list reports. If I have a look at the customer list, this is just a simple list of all of the customers. Nothing fancy about it. Let's say I add a new footer section in here. I'll move it up. And let's say I want to add the customer names. And let's say I want to add the balance LCY. Once again, make them yellow. And preview the report, let's see what happens. I need to scroll all the way down because this is a fairly long list. You will see two things happening. The first one is the customer name. That is the name of the last company that was read. We have Kronos Cardoxy Procurement. That's the customer that's going to be displayed on our footer. It may not be exactly what we want. And what happens with the balance is that we get 4NAV automatically calculates the total balance for the entire report, which is awesome, but may also in this case not be what we want. So as we notice, this is not much of a problem for the header line style reports like invoices. The footer will be printed before the next data item is read. For list style reports or invoice line sections, this may be a bigger problem. What if we want to print a list of customers with a specific posting group in the footer of the customer list? So what if we want to print a list of specific customers in the footer of my customer list? Well, the first thing I need to do is I need to gather my data, and I can gather that data inside a JavaScript variable. So the first thing I need to do is I need to define my JavaScript variables that I want to use in the footer. And to do that, I will go to the list and go to the onPre data item. And in the onPre data item, I can simply type up new variables, and to do that, I type var DOM customers, and I'm going to assign it a default value. If you just type this, var DOM customers, JavaScript will declare a variable but won't do anything with it, which means I can't add any text to it. And if I assign it an empty string, then I can add new text to it. I'm going to do the same for my balance because I want to have the balance for my domestic customers, not for everybody else. So let's say var DOM balance, and I'm going to assign that the value 0 because I want to add the other balances to it. So that's assigning the variables. I did that in my onPre data item. And if I declare these variables in the onPre data item, I can use them in the onAfterGet record. The onAfterGet records gets triggered every time a record is read from the database. So what I can do in here is create an if statement. If something, and for the clause of our if statement, I'm going to use the list customer posting group. I'm going to trigger this when my customer posting group is domestic. So if my customer posting group is domestic, I'm going to say DOM customers plus is, so I'm going to add a value to the value I've already got. So let's add the name, and let's add a space as well. So my list, so I get spacing in between my customers. And of course, I have my DOM balance, and I'm going to add the list balance LCY to that. So right now I have my DOM customers value. That's going to be a list of all of the customers with the customer posting group domestic. And my DOM balance value is going to be the total balance of all of my customers with the customer posting group domestic. Let's hit OK there. Now all we need to do is use these values somewhere in the report. And to do that, we'll use the text boxes I've already created. And for this text box, instead of list.name, I'm simply going to type DOM customers. And I'm going to set it to multi-line because this may be a bit of a long list of customers. So I will do that. And to make it look nice, we'll align it top left. And this now displays list balance. And instead of list balance, I'm going to display DOM balance. That's all I need to do. Let's make it bold so it stands out a little bit. Let's preview the report. And once again, scroll all the way down. There we go. Now we have a list of all of our customers with the posting group domestic, and we have the total amount of these customer balances. So that's what ForNav does for us. We define the JavaScript variables, then we define a clause for when we add stuff to these variables. And finally, we simply use these variables inside of a text box. Finally, we probably want to use multiple customer fields. So instead of using a single variables, we will define an object, and we will add that object to an array. So an array in JavaScript is just a list. So that's the first thing we are going to create. And an object is, like you can see on screen, and I will type it up inside JavaScript, is an object which may contain multiple fields. So let's go back to ForNav and see if we can type this up. So the first thing we need to do is in the onPre data item. I'm not going to mess about with the DOM balance right now, that's fine. The DOM customers is now a string, and I will change that to an array. So I'll change that to something that can hold a list of customers or a list of something. Then inside our onAfterGet record, we are going to do something else. So instead of just adding the list of name to our DOM customers, I'm going to declare a temporary variable. So I'm going to declare the variable DOM customer. Then that variable is going to be an object, and for an object I create 2 curly brackets, and inside that object I can create multiple fields, and I don't need to define this anywhere else. I can just start typing. So I can say name is let's find the list name. So name list.name. Our second variable inside our object is balance, and the balance is of course list.balance LCY, which is right at the top. And if you want to create more of these variables inside your objects, you can do that. You can simply pluck them out of thin air. You can add number with the list.number, or amount with list.amount, or list.address with the address. You can go entirely nuts with this. Finally, instead of simply creating a list, I'm going to need to add the DOM customer to my list of customers. So to do that, I will type DOM customers dot push, and I'm simply going to add my DOM customer to my list of customers. There we go. So what we've done, we declared a variable DOM customer. We assigned that variable with the object, which contains the list.name and the list.balance LCY, and we've pushed that customer object into our list of customers so we can use it somewhere else. The DOM balance is fine. I will leave it like that because I'll use it later on in the report. So we have this. Now we end up with an array of with a list of customers that we can use, and of course you can just simply use that list and use that in our footer. But what we really want to do is parse that and make it into something that is somewhat human readable. So to do that, let's delete this. To do that, we are going to need to run through the list and create a text variable that we can read. And I'm going to type really quickly now, just do some copy pasting. And what I'm going to do is, first thing I do is I declare a result variable, and that result variable is at the end, I call it, so it will, the content of that variable will be displayed. I need to declare a variable I because I need an I variable in my for clause, and this for clause will run through my list of customers. So for every customer, so for I0 to DOM customers.length, I'm going to say result plus is DOM customers I, so the first DOM customer dot name. And you will notice that I can use the dot name that I've declared earlier, and there is no limit to what you declare. You can simply pluck it out of thin air, and as long as it's been declared in your DOM customer object, you can use it right here. Then I'm going to add the string balance, and then I'm going to say add DOM customer.balance. And finally, the \n means I'm going to create a new line. So that's the JavaScript new line trigger. So what I really am going to get from this is a list of customers with name plus the text balance plus the balance, and then a new line. And like I said, I use the result to display the results in this text box. So let's see. I need a bit more space. There we go. Tried this before, so I know how big the list is going to be. Let's hit preview and make sure I've copied and printed all of my JavaScript properly. Looks like I have. So what I end up with, zoom in a little bit further, is I'm going to end up with a list of all of my customers with the customer posting group domestic. I have the customer name, then the text balance, and then the customer balance. I have the full list of that, and finally at the bottom I still have the total balance for all of my customers with the posting group domestic. And that's really how you use record variables inside of 4nav footers. But of course you can use this in any type of 4nav object. It's just that it's mostly used for printing stuff in footers. So let's recap what we just did. The first thing we did was add data item values to a report footer. We noticed that this works well for header line reports, but it won't work for things like lists. By using JavaScript variables, we were able to copy data item values and add them to the footer. We also saw that we could calculate totals this way. Finally, we used a JavaScript array and an object to use multiple records and fields. So thank you very much for listening to me so far. I see we don't have any questions at the moment, so I'm just going to wrap up this coffee break. If you want to know more, please visit 4nav.com, and if you want to download the 4nav designer and start playing around with it, you can do so from 4nav.com/download. And if you want to use 4nav in a Business Central Cloud sandbox or production environment, you can install it from the Microsoft App Source. If you want to watch more of these videos or other videos about 4nav, please visit the 4nav YouTube channel. And if you have any questions after watching this coffee break, please email them to support@4nav.com. For a full list of upcoming and recorded coffee breaks, you can visit 4nav.com/coffeebreak. We have all the recordings of all the previous sessions there, as well as the sessions that are going to come. And if you have any topics for future 4nav coffee breaks, please let us know. And if we select your suggestion, we will send you a €50 or $1 gift certificate as a thank you. So thank you very much once again for watching, and I will speak to you in the next coffee break. Goodbye.